This is the 10th edition of my 3 overrated college football teams. I started in 2015 as a way to get in with Bill Connolly and write for SB Nation, and I've only missed the 2020 COVID season. By my grading, I've been right on 2/3 of my predictions, 18 out of 27. I try to be hard on myself. For example, I had Tulane overrated at 24th in the preseason AP poll back in 2023. However, I considered it a push because they only fell out of the top 25 when quarterback Michael Pratt didn't play in a bowl game loss. But Ed, you might be saying, the preseason AP poll is a meaningless relic. ESPN pundit Fran Fraschilla called the poll a, quote, fake narrative, end quote. Before we get to 3 overrated college football teams for 2025, let's address this fake narrative. Let's test the predictive power of the preseason AP poll in 2 ways. First, consider how often the higher-ranked team wins a bowl game. Let's look through the 2005 through 2017 seasons. I'm trying to capture games before the mass opt-out era. This started in 2016 with Christian McCaffrey and Leonard Fournette. From 2005 through 2017, the higher-ranked team in the preseason AP poll won 59.9% of bowl games. I find this remarkable since the poll has 0 data from the current season. Second, let's look at the 4-team playoff era that started in 2014 and ended in 2023. Almost half of the top 5 teams in the preseason AP poll made the playoff. That's 24 out of 50 teams. I find that remarkable. The preseason AP poll is a powerful predictor because of the wisdom of crowds. No one pollster has a perfect ballot. However, when you aggregate the opinions of many pollsters, you get a really powerful predictor of team strength. Let's use the preseason AP poll as a strong benchmark and identify 3 overrated college football teams. Illinois had a fantastic 10-3 season last year, capped off with a win over rising SEC team South Carolina. Brent Bielema seems to have finally figured out in his 4th year at Illinois. Now, he has a ton of returning production coming back. Bill Connolly at ESPN quantifies this, and he has Illinois ranked 4th in terms of returning production for 2025. This includes quarterback Luke Altmaier. So, they're ready to go even higher, right? Not so fast. For starters, Illinois had a 5-1 record in one-score games last season. Record in one-score games tends to regress to 500, but let's just not state the statistical facts. Let's actually look at some games last year. Against an awful Purdue team, they needed overtime to win by 1 point. At Rutgers, they were down late by a single point, and they got a long pass play to win the game. Bill Connolly also looks at other kinds of luck, and he found that Illinois was top 25 in terms of turnovers and injuries as well. Last year, the offense was pretty good, and they bring back quarterback Luke Altmaier. This offseason, I started looking at quarterbacks specifically and then adjusting their performance for the defenses that they played. We'll look at success rate, or how often a play is successful for an offense. And then I will adjust Altmaier's passing success rate for the defenses that he played. The final result is that Altmaier is expected to have a 44.3% passing success rate, which is pretty good compared to the college football average of 40.6. The problem for this offense is that he's losing some key weapons. Wide receiver Pat Bryant had the second most targets last year, but a very solid 2.83 yards per route run. 3 yards per route run is usually the threshold for elite. He also caught that touchdown pass to win the game against Rutgers. He was a 3rd-round pick going to the Denver Broncos. Also, they lost running back Josh McCray. He decided to transfer to Georgia. It looks like more of the carries will go to Aiden Laffery. And this may seem like a good thing because Lafferty had 6 yards per carry last season compared to 5.2 for McCray. However, you also have to look at how successful the running back is on a play-to-play basis. We'll do that through success rate, and then I will adjust for the defenses that these running backs faced. McCray is expected to have a 50.4% rushing success rate against an average FBS defense. That's significantly better than the 43.4% average. And it's also better than Lafferty, who's expected to have a 41.8% rushing success rate. Illinois' defense also struggled against the run last year. They were 108th out of 134 teams in my adjusted rushing success rate. Their top 4 linemen are gone from last year, but that actually may be a good thing for the Illinois defense. The preseason model that I trust the most at the power rank is my market model. It takes win totals from the market and then backs out how good a team is based on the schedule. Illinois ranks 25th in my market model. Illinois is overrated at 12th in the preseason AP poll. Last year, Michigan's offense came into the season with a huge question mark at quarterback. However, they did have some nice skill position players, like tight end Colston Loveland and running back Kalel Mullings. The offense was bad. Even in a 13-10 win over Ohio State, Michigan threw for 62 yards after accounting for sacks. Now, Michigan has figured out the quarterback position for the 2025 season. They recruited Bryce Underwood, the top recruit in the nation, and they even have a nice backup in Mikey Keene, who was the starter for Fresno State last year. But now they have some serious questions at the skill position. Tight end Colston Loveland is gone. He was the 10th pick in the NFL draft. Running back Kalel Mullings was a 6th-round draft pick to Tennessee. Who is going to replace the production from these guys? It's not clear at all. Wide receiver Samaj Morgan had the 2nd most targets last year at 38 targets, but he had less than a yard per route run. That's really bad. Michigan is also supposedly high on wide receiver Donovan McCulley, who transferred in from Indiana. He certainly looks the part at 6 feet 5 inches tall. However, he only had 21 receiving yards last season before leaving the team in early October. He wasn't getting the playing time at Indiana. At the running back position, it seems Michigan made a nice addition in running back Justice Hayes because he transferred in from Alabama. However, the numbers don't look good. When you take a running back success rate and adjust for the defenses that he has played, Hayes was really poor. He would be expected to have a rushing success rate of 36% against an average FBS defense. This was way behind Alabama's top running back, Jam Miller, who was expected to have a 48.6% success rate. Michigan does have 3 returning starters on the O-line. They're going to need some big performances there. Michigan's defense was phenomenal last season. When I look at success rate and adjust for strength of schedule, they were 3rd in the nation. However, the heart and soul of that defense is gone to the NFL. Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant played defensive tackle and both went in the 1st round of the draft. The defense also had 2 other starters that were drafted in the top 3 rounds. There's certainly still talent on this team. Cornerback Jair Hill is certainly a keeper. And then the defensive line is going to be expecting more production from Rayshon Benny and Derek Moore. These guys should be good, but they're certainly going to need to produce more than the 5 total sacks that they did last season. Michigan is not putting much talent around a top recruit at quarterback, and the defense won't be as good as last year. Michigan is overrated at 14th in the preseason AP poll. Iowa State had an awesome 11-3 record last season. They may have gotten stomped by Arizona State in the Big 12 championship game, but they ended the season on a high note with a win over Miami. However, just like Illinois, part of this record was fluky. They had a 5-1 record in one-score games, and you certainly expect regression to 500. They also had a lot of luck in terms of turnovers. They were +9 in turnovers. Bill Connelly does some really nice analysis with turnover luck because he actually calculates your expected turnovers. So, for example, if you fumble the ball, you're expected to recover 50% of those. You can work out an expected turnover differential. And then your luck is based on how much your actual turnover differential exceeds this expectation. Iowa State was 7th in the nation last season. But fading Iowa State is really about the personnel. They do return quarterback Rocco Becht. However, he wasn't particularly good. Just like I did for Luke Altmaier, you can look at passing success rate and adjust for opposing defenses. Becht is expected to have a passing success rate of 41.4%. That is only marginally better than the college football average of 40.6%. But the real problem is that he lost 2 NFL caliber wide receivers. Jaden Higgins was drafted in the 2nd round. Jalen Noel was drafted in the 3rd round. The offense wasn't particularly great last year with these guys. What are they going to do without them? They may have a nice piece in transfer wide receiver Chase Sowell. He had 2.76 yards per route run at East Carolina last year. On defense, Iowa State was really good against the pass last season. When I look at success rate adjusted for schedule, they were 22nd in the nation. However, again, they lost some key pieces to this pass defense. Cornerback Darian Porter was a 3rd-round pick in the NFL draft. Cornerback Miles Purchase didn't get drafted, but he was signed by the Los Angeles Chargers. They do have cornerback Jontez Williams, who was very good last season, but there are really some key losses. Iowa State was worse against the run last season. They were very close to FBS average. They need to replace their top 3 defensive linemen in terms of snaps. However, they do return defensive tackle Dominique Orange. This is a player that had their highest PFF grade from last season, and he's projected as a late-round NFL pick. My market model, which takes win totals and backs out a rating for each team based on schedule, says that Iowa State should be 36th in the nation. And I think that rank is easy to understand when you look at the NFL caliber talent that won't be on this team this season. Iowa State is overrated at 22nd in the preseason AP poll. Thank you for listening. My name is Ed Fang, your host for the Football Analytics Show. This episode is part of the 2025 Preview Series, a daily series of podcasts to get you ready for football season. This preview series is brought to you by the Power Ranks Sports Betting newsletter. Looking for some action on any given weekend? This is the free service for you, as 5 Nugget Saturday is my curated list of tips and analytics. You'll also get my football betting resource guide. To sign up for free, go to thepowerrank.com. That's ThePowerrank. Members of the Power Rank get access to all of my best predictions, analytics, and analysis. There are football spreads, totals, and props bets every week of the season. To learn more about how to support my work, go to thepowerrank.net. That is a URL that will take you to a page on my site where you can learn more about a membership to the Power Rank.